Have you ever had that moment? You're sitting there, maybe you're looking at your org chart, or you're staring down a huge deadline, and it hits you. The
Well,
success of this entire mission, it all depends on your personal bandwidth. You're the one who have to sign off on everything, the one with all the institutional knowledge. You look around and just realize, I am the bottleneck. That moment, that quiet crisis of untransferred wisdom, it's just exhausting.
it's more than exhausting, it's totally unsustainable. And that exact feeling is what our deep dive is all about today. We're exploring a whole body of source material dedicated to what's called leadership multiplication.
Mm.
And this isn't, just a small tweak in your management style. It's a really profound strategic shift. It applies to businesses, nonprofits, any organization, really.
Yeah.
It's about moving your focus from simply producing results to intentionally producing and empowering other leaders for the long haul.
And the core tension that just jumps off the page right from the start is this idea of addition versus multiplication. Most of us, I think, are stuck in an addition mindset.
Oh, completely.
It's finite. You have to keep adding more hours, more people to your own plate. It centralizes all the power, relies entirely on you, and it inevitably leads straight to burnout.
Exactly. And when that leader steps away, the whole thing can collapse. Multiplication, on the other hand, is infinite. It's about strategically, decentralizing your influence, your competence, to create a legacy that lasts way longer than you do.
Mm-hmm.
The material we looked at argues that the ultimate measure of a great leader isn't how long you shine in the spotlight. It says the greatest leaders are the ones who ignite others until that light just spreads endlessly through the whole organization.
That makes so much sense. You have to get out of the addition business if you want to build something that lasts. So let's unpack that a bit, this shift in perspective. Why are we all so stuck in that addition mode?
I think it's because the modern world, especially the workplace, just worships performance. We chase impact by trying to do more.
Right. All the pressure reinforces efficiency. It demands quick wins.
Mhm.
It prioritizes this quarter's results over the messy, sometimes slow work of actually developing people. And that's why so many leaders feel like they're on a treadmill. They're just chasing a goal that keeps moving.
And the source material really asks us to just pause
Yeah.
and radically redefine what success even looks like. What if success wasn't measured by the tasks you completed or the goals you hit this quarter,
Hmm.
but by the healthy, competent leaders who grew up under your guidance? It's about shifting to what the sources call generational fruitfulness.
It's about lineage, not just your own locus of control. I found the historical examples in the sources so powerful here. They strip away all the corporate jargon and just show the principle. They argue that Moses' greatest contribution wasn't, parting the Red Sea. It was the years he spent preparing Joshua to take over, making sure the mission would continue after he was gone.
And if you look at the mission of Jesus, his deepest legacy wasn't the miracles. Those were amazing, but temporary. His real, lasting legacy was that handful of disciples he poured everything into, who then carried that mission across the world. In both of those cases, success was defined by that intentional, often multi-year process of transferring authority and competence. It's a clear roadmap for lasting impact.
But that roadmap forces you to confront your own ego, doesn't it? It sounds like it all starts with a huge mindset shift away from ownership and towards stewardship.
Absolutely, that's the core of it. Ownership says, this knowledge, this authority, this is mine. I have to guard it. And if you own it, you feel this need to protect it because maybe your value is tied up in it. Stewardship says, look, I've been entrusted with this for a season, and my main job is to give it away, to prepare others to carry it forward. That mindset actually frees leaders from that crushing pressure of feeling like they have to be irreplaceable. The goal of stewardship is, ironically, to make yourself redundant.
Which is terrifying for a lot of people. In a typical company, being redundant means you're out of a job.
And that's the tension. That's what a multiplier has to overcome. They have to realize that redundancy at the task level creates capacity at the strategic level. When you hand off the day-to-day tactical work, you free yourself up to be a visionary, a developer of people. And that's a role no one else can fill.
Okay, so if that multiplication, that generational fruitfulness is the goal, then the big question is, why do so many organizations struggle to find good successors? It seems to be a huge problem everywhere.
I think the sources suggest we're victims of our own success. We often miss the really crucial difference between a high performer and a high potential leader. We mistake one for the other, and that leads to these massive organizational blunders.
Okay, let's nail that down because that feels critical. What does that difference actually look like on the ground?
Well, think of it like this. The high performer, They excel within the system you already have. They're super efficient, they execute flawlessly, they deliver results. They are very present-focused. You give them a detailed manual for a complicated machine, they will run that machine better than anyone. They're absolutely essential for operations.
But the high potential person.
The high potential person looks at that same machine, and instead of just running it, they ask, why are we even using this machine? Is there a better way? And who else needs to learn how this works so I can go build the next version? They question the system. They see the bigger picture, and they think in terms of people and influence, not just tasks. They're naturally future-focused. And promoting a brilliant high performer into a high-potential role, like making your best salesperson the VP of strategy, it so often fails because the skills are totally different. It's execution versus cultivation.
That explains so much. And as leaders, we have these huge built-in biases that keep us looking at the wrong people. We're drawn to the loudest person in the room.
Absolutely. We have to fight the urge to be charmed. The source material reminds us we have to see beyond the obvious. It uses the story of Samuel trying to anoint the next king. He saw Jesse's 7 older sons, who are all strong and handsome and charismatic, and he thought, well, it's got to be one of them. He was wrong. The real potential was with David, the shepherd boy out in the field, the one nobody was even thinking about.
And it's so hard to look beyond the obvious because we fall into, what, a couple of major traps.
2 big ones, yeah. The first is familiarity bias. We tend to overestimate the potential of people who are close to us or people we think we know well. The sources use that really poignant example of Jesus in his hometown, Nazareth. The people there just couldn't accept his authority because they were too familiar with him. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Familiarity blinded them.
And the second one is the charisma bias. This is huge in corporate culture. We mistake flash and a great speaking voice for real leadership substance. Charisma gets attention, sure, but it's character and that quiet potential that sustains influence over the long term.
So if we're supposed to be looking past the star performers and the flashy talkers, what are we actually looking for? What are the concrete signs? The sources boil it down to 4 quiet but really reliable traits that signal true potential.
Okay, give us the checklist.
First is initiative. You look for the person who doesn't wait to be told what to do. They see a problem, they have an idea, and they just quietly move to fix it. They don't need applause. The example given was a volunteer named Daniel. The sound system crashed during a huge event, and he didn't panic or run to find a supervisor. He just calmly walked over, figured out the technical problem, and got it working again. He led the crisis, not the stage.
That's the difference between being reactive and proactive.
Exactly. Second is teachability. This isn't just about being smart. It's about their willingness to genuinely receive correction, to ask tough questions, and to actually change their behavior based on feedback. They see correction as a gift, not an attack.
Okay, third.
Influence, and this is critical. We're not talking about formal authority from a job title.
Yeah.
This is natural influence. People just listen to them. Why? Because they're kind, they're patient, they're honest. They have a kind of moral authority that's way more powerful than positional authority.
And finally, the bedrock of it all.
Character. Just pure integrity and faithfulness, especially when nobody's watching. The sources argue you can train almost any technical skill, but character has to be there from the start. They use Joseph as the prime example. He was faithful in small, unseen things, like managing a household or refusing to compromise his integrity. That kind of character proves you can be trusted with more authority later on.
So we've identified the right people, we've got the multiplication mindset. But as we said, this can't be accidental. It needs intentional structures. We have to stop creating bottlenecks and start building robust pipelines.
That systematic approach is what separates the great leaders from the good ones. You just can't scale competence without a system for it. A really powerful historical example is Nehemiah rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem. It was a massive, complex job. He had to rebuild the city's defenses in record time with enemies on the outside and arguments on the inside.
Right, he couldn't possibly oversee every single stone being laid himself.
Impossible.
Yeah.
So what did he do? He built a system. He strategically divided the entire wall into sections and delegated clear responsibility for each section to a specific family or team. He didn't just tell them what to do. He gave them measurable ownership. And that structure multiplied his leadership, it distributed the work, and it led to this incredible result. When the wall was done, everyone had been a leader of their own part.
That structure helps, but the emotional cost of this is still trust. It's that willingness to sacrifice perfect total control. Let's go back to that fear we mentioned. That little voice that says, if you know what I know, I lose my value, I lose my job security.
That fear is very real, and the sources tackle it head on. If your value is tied only to what you know, you will always be a bottleneck. But the multiplier mindset says, if you know what I know, we multiply our value for the whole mission. The most secure leader is the one who empowers others because their value shifts. It moves from being a tactical expert to being a strategic developer of people. They understand that sharing knowledge actually increases the entire team's impact and makes the organization resilient.
Okay, and this is where the actual methodology comes in, how you transfer that knowledge and skill. The sources detail this really beautiful multi-layered rhythm for moving people from dependence to deployment.
It was a four-step cycle and was modeled perfectly by Jesus with his disciples. You have to be cycling through these four stages constantly.
Okay, lay out the 4 steps for us.
The first layer is instruction. This is teaching the why. It's about mission, identity, culture, the core beliefs. You have to build the deep foundations that will guide their decisions when you're not around.
And then from there, you move to modeling or shadowing.
Correct. This is showing the how. Leaders aren't built in a classroom. They're built through proximity. They need to see you handle failure, manage a tough conversation, execute a strategy. They absorb the habits of their mentor just by being there.
And then comes the big one, the terrifying step for a lot of mentors, empowerment.
Empowerment is deployment. It's giving them their own piece of the wall to build.
Oh.
The sources are really clear on this. You have to treat people as who they can become, not just who they are right now. And real empowerment isn't just walking away. It's setting up some guardrails, giving them a clear mandate, and then letting them run with 80% of it alone, knowing they might stumble.
So you have to trust them enough to let them fail forward.
Exactly. You sacrifice short-term perfection for long-term formation. And that leads right into the fourth and final step, correction and debriefing. A great multiplier sees a mistake not as proof of incompetence, but as proof of engagement. You correct the mistake directly, sure, but always with the goal of restoration, not humiliation. And then right after the action, you have to debrief. You have to reflect together, because that's how you turn raw experience into real wisdom.
And this whole cycle, from instruction to debriefing, it has to be managed with intentional tools, right? We're not just talking about getting coffee once a month.
No, absolutely not. It has to have rigor. We're talking about using actionable tools like mentorship maps, Leader Scout checklists to track those 4 quiet traits, formal 90-day mentorship plans, and even skill transfer blueprints that map out exactly what knowledge needs to be handed off. Accidental multiplication. This is an oxymoron. It has to be consistent. So to synthesize all this, what our deep dive has really shown is that leadership multiplication isn't just a nice idea. It's a strategic imperative. It demands this blend of commitment to developing both character and competence, and it has to be paired with creating intentional systems and pipelines for that transfer to happen. It's a holistic approach, and it's the only way to build lasting influence and true resilience in an organization.
Which brings us all the way back to that ultimate challenge from the source material. The question you have to take with you from this is, if you were to step away from your leadership role today, what would continue? What systems, what people, what influence would just keep going automatically? And what would end the second you walked out the door? The challenge really is to stop hoarding competence and start building a self-replicating exponential legacy.
So your mission today is really practical. Think of one person around you who shows that quiet potential, that initiative, that teachability, influence, or character, and then ask, what is one specific, intentional step you can take this week to move them just 1 millimeter further down that pipeline? Can you let them shadow you in a key meeting? Can you give them one low-stakes task where they are fully empowered? Your organization's entire future resilience might just depend on that single intentional investment you make today.